And we're live on radio with the Roundtable in 5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the big1050.com. Sam Webb, Ira Weintraub on the other side, and we got the MGoBlog crew with us this morning, and we're going to have a special guest who went to practice yesterday. Is known Kyle Whittingham for 30 years or so. So some real good perspective. We'll get to him coming up, but I want to introduce, before we move on, the MGoBlog crew, starting with Brian Cook. BC, good morning. How are you?
I'm well.
We have the venerable Craig Ross. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. I'm honored to be on the same screen here with Ron English.
And I didn't even introduce him yet. Craig!
Sorry.
And then we have Seth Fisher. Seth, how are you this morning?
You know what? I always thought that like people don't understand how epic this show is. So I was thinking maybe like, you know, that walk-up music we have before the 2024 Ohio State game, like boom, right? And they're like breathing hard and stuff like that. Like if you'd start the show with that, Sam, people would understand how important everything about to go on was what really was, right?
And then
they get what's about to happen here.
Yeah, so you want practice feel from someone not on the team. We're able to get it from a guy who ran his share of practices during his time here in Ann Arbor and beyond. Florida, Louisville, San Jose State has had several stops, and he stopped by this morning because he was in town. My man, Coach E, Ron English. Coach E, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Sam. How are you?
Doing great, man. So I know you're in town. You said, hey, I want to swing by, but you also got a chance to swing by Michigan's practice. And so you go back with Kyle Whittingham, right?
Well, I didn't think he would remember it, but I was coaching at Mount SAC in 1993, Mount San Antonio College, which is actually the largest junior college in the state of California by enrollment. And he would come recruit there. And I couldn't remember if he was at BYU or Utah or where he was exactly. I couldn't remember it. I can't remember that, but he did. Yeah, he came by and recruited.
Yeah, man.
So he said he remembered that.
Yeah, and so you got a chance to go down to your old stomping grounds. Yeah. Building looks a lot different than it did when you were there.
God, that thing is nice, man. They got a lot of nice stuff going on. And, to me, it's nice and functional and not, it's some of these other places, they got a lot of stuff and it's a little bit too much for me. But I thought that was a beautiful setup.
So from what you know of Kyle Whittingham in the 30 plus years that you know him, what you saw at Utah, and then just your observation. I know you can't read too much into one practice, but just your observation in practice. Yeah. What do you think this year is going to be like? What do you think he's going to bring to the table?
Well, I like the fit. I liked it when they hired him. I thought he was a home run hire because of his style of play, and he can win a lot of ways. And I watched him a lot. In fact, I watched their defense a lot and what they do. But I think you're going to see a physical team. I mean, they're going to be physical now, and they're going to play hard and play with enthusiasm, and they're going to play smart. They're not going to beat themselves. That's what he's been through the years, and he can win a lot of ways. He can win in a slugfest. He can win in a shootout. I've seen him do it. So I just think that I just really admire him. I have through the years, and I just think he's an excellent football coach.
So one of your guys that you worked with, Al Board, just told me a story one time. He said, he obviously goes way back with Kyle Whittingham too. It's like, man, I guess when you coach that long, you got a lot of connection. Oh, yeah. And so Al said, it wasn't just me coaching against him all these years. He said, listen, our first year when we went to the Sugar Bowl, he said Brady was trying to get ready for the bowl game. And he wanted to do something different than they did at San Diego State. And so they looked around, who could they study to enhance their bowl effort? And he said, man, we got to go out to Utah to see how they get ready because, man, Kyle Whittingham has his teams ready. So he said they went out and they studied Utah. And he said everything he did to his schedule, to the practice breakdown, and he shared it.
Yeah.
Everything he did, he said we copied it to a T and ran it. And he said that's really the preparation that we had for the Sugar Bowl was all Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I looked at it, but I think at one time he had a really good bowl record.
Oh, yeah.
Like in the 80s, maybe percentages or something like that, but it was a really good bowl record. So, I mean, I think some people have a knack for preparing teams for bowl games, and I think some people don't. And you know, through the years, what I've found is it's important to win the game, man. It's important to win that last game. So whatever you can do to help yourself, and that was ingenious by Brady to do that.
Yeah, and so it's one of those things where you can only copy so much, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it worked for that time, but everything else. Well, his ability to mold the team, to shape a program. So many coaches that I've talked to have their remarks have been aimed in that direction. And so the first evidence that we could see of it, Ron, and I wonder if if you saw anything that would lead you to say, yeah, that looks really different with this team, is he came in and said, listen, they didn't leave the cupboard bare, the last staff. There's a lot of talent here, but we came and we looked at it, it's like, man, they're not as strong as they need to be. Yeah. So we got to put in a really focused program here in winter conditioning and in spring and then in the summer to make this team tangibly stronger by the time the season starts. And Ron, the numbers have been off the charts. One guy said he increased his bench by 150 pounds. Another guy said he went from 20 to 29 reps on 225. Another guy said he went from 18 to 27. I mean, these strength gains have been amazing. So my question to you is, did the physicality in practice, did it seem to indicate a stronger team? And then in your experience, what will that mean for the team this fall that they have gotten that much stronger over the course of the offseason?
I think the strength gains are twofold. The number one job of a strength coach is that if your players are staying healthy, then he's probably doing a good job. And if they're staying healthy, then they're probably fit and they're probably strong. Now, I'm not going to speak to, what happened before or any of that because I don't know what happened. But I do know that they like that strength coach, and I do know, and I did talk to him, and he's a humble guy and all that stuff. But those gains, how they show up is you can be physical, and you can be physical longer when you're strong and when you're fit and when you have some bulk. And but what I like, I'm not going to get into practice at all, really, to be honest, but I can share this. It's old school in the sense that they run the same play a bunch of times in a row. Just run it the other way, run it this way, run it left, run it right. And when you really want to build a physical team, that's kind of what you do. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows where it's going. And can you stop it or can you advance it?
Yeah, I remember when talking to you about gym, because you were studying gym in the run game. Because, man, I remember making this like some coaches RPO loaded boxes. And he said, and some coaches run it anyway. Right. And that was him. Right. No, that was his philosophy, right? And so they had to see they could run the football no matter what. Yeah. This is gonna be you said running the same play. Like they can, like you're gonna see a lot more of, they're gonna run into a loaded box, but they can also, do some reading off of that I think is gonna be a lot more pronounced in this offense, fair to say?
No question. And when I say the same play, I'm not saying that there aren't options on the play. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that it's not triple option, or I'm not saying that, the quarterback can spit it out there, but I'm just saying that the scheme of the play for, it's you're pretty similar. You're seeing it. So can you knock it down or not? And and that was the fun part of that was just, and then they got some goal line stuff in there. It was a fun practice to watch because it was right up my alley. Yeah.
So from a DC standpoint, when I don't know how much you watched Utah last year or had a chance to really look at Jason Beck's offense, but even just what you saw in practice yesterday, what makes them difficult to defend?
You got to account for the quarterback, but then they could get into different styles, and then you got to account for motions, and then you got to account for alignments, and then you got to account for so they're making you. But to me, that's not Utah's bag. It's not that they're going to trick you. Mm-hmm. They're just going to block you and run through you. And, you're going to have to deal with multiple options. But I'm just saying at the end of the day, it's going to come down to knocking you around. That's what I think you're going to see.
Mm-hmm. All right. And so, obviously, without getting too specific about practice, everyone's focused. The Big Ten Network guys focus on Bryce Underwood, right? And so this is my opinion, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. I expect for the level of performance of the offense to ascend, even if he doesn't improve as a passer to the degree that everyone is looking for. Now, that's the plan. The plan is for him to be improved as a passer.
Yeah.
But in the event that doesn't happen, I think they're going to be successful anyway because they'll just run the crap out of him. Now, that's just my opinion. I'm curious what you think.
No, so do I. I mean, I've seen Utah. I've seen him with this style quarterback. Okay, he's a running guy, can't really throw all that well. And I've seen him with passing guys. They're going to do what it takes to have success. I mean, that's what I love about the hire. The dude he's going to have a fundamental philosophy, which is I'm going to be physical and move you around, but they're also going to do what it takes to have success. And I've seen that over the years. And I think that, the one thing that was pretty cool yesterday was if it wasn't one coach, it was every coach that said Bryce Underwood's a great guy. Everybody forgets he was a freshman. I mean, he's young. He's going to be great. He's smart. He's tough. He is a good person and a great leader. And, I went over to Belleville to recruit him. Mm-hmm. And, you're talking about a 4.0 student now. You're talking about a real dude. And so I just think it's a matter of time. And in this environment, he'll be fine. It's just a matter of time. But they're going to do what it takes for him to have success, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. It's going to be interesting. Now, from a defensive perspective, you watched a lot of what they do. And I'll let you go, man, because I know you got places to be. But when you watch their Jay Hill scheme, what makes it so tough? Because a lot of people talk about, man, you see a lot of disguise there. I'm curious if you got a chance.
A lot of disguise. But I watched Jay Hill last year at BYU and the year before because they played SMU before we did. So, and they did some movement stuff up front that hurt some of their option game. But you're going to get some movement. You're not going to know the shell. I mean, the shell's going to be one thing, and then it'll probably go to another thing. I like him as a coach, but he reminded me, and I have to say I didn't remember, and he said, you remember I came to visit you here in 2005? And I said, I'm not going to lie, man. I do not remember that. And I laughed, because this is where I am in my life now. I laughed, and I said, I hope you got something out of it. Oh, man.
Yeah, so he came to Michigan to visit you at that point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, yeah, man. They say from a disguise standpoint, which Vance would talk about a lot. He's like, man, Sam, can we have some more disguise in there? Now, you could only do so much with the defense last year. At times it was too complex, but it feels like between the maturity of the team and then this scheme that's coming in, you guys bringing some experience with you as well. It feels like they're going to be a really smart defense this year.
Oh, yeah. They, and that the Hill kid, is it Hill, the one corner?
Oh, yeah, Jair should.
I recruit the hell out of Jair. I loved him. And then Michigan jumped in there. I think I was at Purdue at the time. He's on that Indiana border, right? Indiana-Illinois border, I think.
Yeah, he's from
Kankakee.
What is the name of the city? I went there. It's out in the woods in Illinois.
Oh, no, I was there. I went to watch.
It'll come to me.
Yeah. But I just think I think they have talent there. And I think they're going to be underrated, probably. That's what I think.
Yeah, but they're going to sneak up on some people for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see. And Jair Hill is Kankakee. I was thinking Pahokee, but Kankakee, I knew it was a key at the end of it. Yeah. So
no, I was there watching him run track and,
Yeah, Suge, you know what? The thing that I think is going to be different about him is I talked to some of the young guys. Like we had one of the young freshmen in for a series they were doing. He said, man, Jair Hill is pulling me in. It's like, we got to watch film. And that was something, it's been a process. Got to get him to that point of saying, because he's always been so phenomenal athletically.
Right. That's right.
He wasn't one of those guys that really got into that.
Yeah.
But now they say, he's one of those dudes that's doing that part of the game too.
Well, it's hard to go to the next level when you don't really know what's going on. And the only way you're going to really know what's going on is by studying. That's the only way. And it's interesting because that was one of the things at Louisville that our kids, they would do ball, man. They were ball dudes. So, and they knew that I'm not going to tolerate you if you don't love ball and get after it, it's going to be a problem. So they really got into studying ball and talking ball and all that stuff. And I just think to be really good at football, you got to study football and you got to know what's going on.
Well, one of the things, and you'll appreciate this, that I think you can appreciate about, and I'll let you go on this, that you can appreciate about Kyle and what he's bringing in is they play complementary football. Like the offense and defense.
That's right.
Work hand in hand, stylistically.
That's right.
That, and I didn't have an understanding of what that really. Jim was one of the, and he wasn't the first one, but he really like, hey man, listen, we got to protect the even a good defense needs some protection.
There's no question. I mean, okay, I think we were in the top 25 in seven or nine categories, something like that. So when you're in the top 25 in that many categories, then scoring defense should be low. But our scoring defense was, I think we were 35th because, we probably, I can't remember how many points, but pick sixes, fumbles for touchdowns and all that, which speaks to what you're talking about. I don't care how good you are, or short fields. I don't give a shit excuse my language, but I don't care what you're doing. But if you're giving a defense short fields, they're going to struggle. It just is what it is. So, if you have a team that understands and can play complementary football, you're going to have a chance to win.
Yeah, we'll get to a break. And we cleaned it up for the radio. The stream heard you, but we cleaned it up for the radio, which is good, man. But it's good to see you. It's not going to be the last time because as we were talking, we could do some things.
Yeah.
And so obviously this year you're going to spend some time with family.
So this year I have a son, my youngest son, just turned 21. He's going to be a senior at the Naval Academy. So actually I'm leaving today to fly to Annapolis. I'm going to watch them practice for the next 2 days. And then I'm going out west to watch my nephew play. He played for Colorado Pueblo. Then I'm headed back to Florida, which is where our home is, and I'm going to go to all my son's games. So I'm excited about that. And I've been to a bunch of practices. I've watched Florida practice. I've watched UCF practice. I've watched Michigan practice. I'm going to watch Navy practice.
That sounds like a guy who's going to take a year away and then some juice up in the tank.
Well, I never said I was retired. I said I was stepping down to watch my kid play, and that's what I meant. So I'm shoot. Now, if I didn't feel like I could do a good job, that would be something different. But I feel like I can still do a good job.
I hear you. All right, Coach E. Well, it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
My guy, we need to get to a break. We will get back to the roundtable on the other side here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online to big1050.com.
Clear on the radio.
All right. If you could take Coach E off the screen.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you sitting through that. Hope you enjoyed it.
Sam,
very smart leaving us on mute so that we didn't start grilling him on Chris Richards and Johnny Sears.
You were actually not on mute. You could have said something. It would have I had you on.
I was just curious if you ever get a chance, Sam, to ask him how much variance there is in practices between, say, Florida, Michigan, Navy. Is it basically the same, or are these things handled quite differently? I would be interested.
We will we'll pass that one along. We'll see if we can get an answer for you for that, Craig.
Okay.
Ask him how he left Chris Graham alone in space with Anthony Gonzalez.
You can ask him that one. I won't.
Actually, I'm going to see one of English's boys soon. I'm going to DC to the alumni club there, and Grant Mason's bar is what normally hosts that event.
I think you get to my hometown more than I do.
Yeah, well, you got to get invited. Do you want me to put in a good word?
I have plenty of reasons to go, and I don't go.
I got cousins out there, so it's nice to be able to go visit. This is going to be a crazy couple weeks, though. I got Chicago, I got up north, DC.
All right, I'm back. That was just impromptu, him dropping by. So I thought, let's get a little bit of, let's see what we can do.
Yeah,
but we can glean.
You couldn't hear us. You couldn't let us ask questions.
Where
I was yelling, Kankakee. I know the name of the town.
And, you know, I've actually had a cup of coffee this morning, so I'm surprised I wasn't able to grab that. Off the top of my head, I went to Kankakee, and it is in the sticks, man.
Yeah.
In the sticks.
And my dad they got like a big barn where they had like a lot of farmers live out there. So they have a big barn where my dad spoke to like a very large group of black farmers about this program he was trying to do, where you could kind of like put a label on products made by American black farmers, and like, you know, people would be like, "Oh, I want to buy that because
cool.
it's got that label." Yeah,
that's cool. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I knew Kankakee from like when I was like 10.
He was saying, he's like, man, they're gonna be. He was just telling me off here, they're gonna be better than people think. He's like, you just watch. You know, that's not just his knowledge of Kyle. He just watching them yesterday. They got some big, strong, talented athletes, and he really thinks schematically they challenge teams. You know,
15 seconds, guys. Stand by.
Yeah, it's not going to be predictable on either side of the ball what they're doing.
We'll talk about it on the radio. I don't have time to ask the question now, but I have a question about
back on radio in 5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at thebig1050.com. You know, a lot of people going to practice, gathering those different takes. That's just, I guess you got kind of know one of them. But you can only take so much from one practice observation. So you got to put them all together. One of the things you take over the years, guys. And even then, Brian, Seth, and Craig, even then, there's a difference between what they do on State Street and what they do on Main Street. So you can only glean so much from practice. But I don't know if it's me getting this from the players and the guys we've had in on behind the uniform, or everyone I talked to at practice. Yeah, some of the talk about the offense been a little mixed, but I'm just not that concerned, fellas. I feel like I said to Ron, I feel like the level of performance of the offense, the floor is higher than last year, even if they aren't the passing offense we want them to be. But I haven't given up, Brian, on it being the passing offense we want it to be.
Well, I've been writing this up, so I have some thoughts. And those thoughts are, we know what this looks like. We know what it looks like when a hyper athletic, extremely talented quarterback comes into college and ends up starting as a freshman. They run a lot. You know, it just makes everything easier for them. For one, they get yards on the ground. Hooray. But also, when you build your offense around that, punishing ground game, when you do drop back to pass, the reads are simpler, the receivers are more open, and you get more confidence, and the game slows down faster for you. And so for me, Sharon Moore deciding that we were basically not going to do that with Bryce Underwood at all last year was coaching malpractice. Because not only did it, stifle that offense, I think it actually didn't help Bryce Underwood's development, because he's looking at, drop back passes with 7 guys in coverage, and he wasn't ready for that as a true freshman. So I do feel like a change in philosophy, and Utah has always run their quarterbacks, is going to be helpful for Underwood on multiple levels and helpful for the offense on multiple levels. And I know I've said this a long time. I drew that back after the JJ McCarthy stuff, because that was a team that just needed JJ McCarthy healthy to win a national championship. And this Michigan team and last year's Michigan team aren't those teams. They need their quarterback to perform on the ground if they're going to do anything. So I feel like philosophy shift is going to be good for Michigan. I think it's going to be good for Bryce Underwood. And then you have Jordan Marshall, Savion Hyder, and an offensive line that should take another step forward after being pretty good from a year ago. So this does look like a team that can set up to be a real ground and pound outfit, which Whittingham's good at coaching. He knows his way around a fullback. He had a 300-pound freshman last year. I wanted to get in the transfer portal, but that didn't happen. That's okay.
JJ Buchanan, I got to see where in the series he is, but he talked about that. He said, this tells you the genius of Coach Beck. He said, we had a 300-pound fullback tight end guy, and we ran plays for him, and they were successful. Like this dude, he said, whatever your talent is, Jason Beck can scheme to that talent.
Yeah, and I think
Which I thought
you have
was
Jalen Hoffman, who's going to step in and be he's not going to be Max Bredesen, but I think he'll be a useful piece for this offense. And I have confidence that these guys will take advantage of him. So these guys have been around the block, like Moore was in his first year as a head coach and then his second year as a head coach. But Kyle Whittingham's been a head coach in college football for almost 25 years. So they're going to hit the ground running.
It as you were talking, Brian, it made me think of one of the biggest disagreements we've had on the roundtable. Because we agree a lot, but I remember last year after the Oklahoma game, it's like, they got to run him. You didn't disagree with them having to run him, but you disagree with it. They aren't. Why are you talking about it? Because I just felt like at that point, if you aren't going to run them, you aren't going to do anything offensively. Like this is what it's going to look like Oklahoma every game, except obviously they aren't going to be as talented as Oklahoma, but you're still going to be stymied even against lesser opponents if you don't run him. I'm no coach, but I just felt like that was the reality, and at least they faced that reality. They got to run him some. They can't just say, "Oh my God, he'll get hurt." You do that, they would have lost. They would have lost 7 games last year, which would have been worse than it obviously wound up being. But Craig, your thoughts?
Well, a few things. One is I've talked to a number of people over the last week, Michigan fans, serious Michigan fans, and I said, "Well, how do you think we're going to do?" And they said, 7 or 8 wins. And I go, 7 or 8 wins, really? And so I was glad to hear Coach English say that he thought that that Michigan will surprise people, because that's kind of where I'm at too. I think we're going to be better than 7 or 8 wins. I think it's going to be 9 or 10 wins, maybe better. But it all depends on the quarterback play, and the quarterback play depends upon, can they run him? Can they run him just enough to make everything else go? Last year I could understand it, why they didn't run him, I guess, because
never understood it. Never understood.
We didn't have really a backup quarterback last year, did we?
Well, so you lose games with a backup quarterback, you're going to lose more with a
starter.
I mean, so there's this famous quote from a guy with the Colts that I can't say on the radio.
Okay.
About Peyton Manning, how they're not running Peyton Manning's backup because they don't practice bleeped. So I feel like that was the situation last year. So yeah, it's a higher chance that Bryce Underwood gets hurt, but fundamentally you weren't doing anything with that version of Bryce Underwood anyway. So
right.
That's Sam's 100%. Point, and I hear it. But
and
this year,
you know what would you be? You'd have Mikey Keene just lobbing passes to receivers, and finally, you'd get some receivers to actually decide that we pass the ball.
Yeah.
Look, there's no question that the backup quarterback situation last year was suboptimal, but fundamentally, it's about you have to enter your season with a clear-eyed view of how you accomplish something. And in 2023, Michigan's clear-eyed view of how we win the national championship is we get J.J. McCarthy to that game healthy. And the 2025 version of what can we do is we run Bryce Underwood into the ground and see what happens.
So, you know what? Yeah, I don't think, to be clear, I don't think last year they had this sudden change in philosophy because they just saw, well, we could do this with Bryce. We could do that with Bryce. I think they had an epiphany. Like, if we don't do this, we won't do anything. They did it because they had to. And I don't pretend to, I don't know more than any coach. Any coach that has ever coached in Michigan knows more in his pinky finger than I know about football. But
there's a couple, but
even I could see that. And I wasn't disrespectful about it. But it was a matter of fact, like, listen, man, you're going to lose a whole lot more games if you don't run this kid and use that talent while he's still learning the other aspects of the offense. Even once he knows, let's say, Seth, that he ascends as a passer like they hope based on his fundamental improvement. They still got to run him. I mean, it's just such a
running him makes him a better passer. Brian was talking about this too, and we were talking about this last year when we were trying to come up with a comp for him, and I was like, well, Terrell Pryor, because Terrell Pryor's freshman year was what I thought they were going to do with him. Run him outside the pocket a little bit, build some zone read in, but you can't just do it like for the Ohio State game. Because we saw them, they had some like zone reads for him in that game, and he read it wrong, or he went to the wrong spot afterwards because he wasn't doing it all year.
It's just it's some level of coaching arrogance to be like, we're just going to do this in the Ohio State game, and he's going to get it right. Our freshman quarterback playing Ohio State, repping plays he's never run live before. Like, come on, man! Like, this kid's 17.
And it's such a zone read, it's such a feel play, right? It's a basketball play. It's like you're trying to decide whether I got this dude, right? And you're assessing his athleticism and can I get around this guy, right?
That's actually a really great analogy, Seth, because it is about feel. So you have to rep it and rep it and rep it to know what that defensive end's going to do, and know what looks like a scrape exchange, and not get yourself in situations. It's not something you can just pick up and be like, okay, we're going to do this right. It's like it was kind of that, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago when it was new. But these days there's a lot of nuances, and you got to rep it. It's not triple option, but it's a lot closer to that than it used to be in its heyday. So it's just not something you can pick up and be like, now we're going to do this for a game. Sorry, Seth, go ahead.
No, that was basically the whole point.
I agree.
Got to get that feel down.
I agree with this 100%, except I have one caveat in the back of my head is I haven't seen that he can do it yet. And that may be that there haven't been enough repetitions. It may be a lot of reasons for that. But so far, I haven't seen that particular skill set. Now, maybe it's there or maybe it can be there. But to me, that's the season. To me, whether this season will be a success really depends on quarterback play, in my opinion. Offensive line play also, but I think that's going to be all right.
Right.
And
I want to be clear in me expressing my opinion. If it doesn't go well with Bryce as a passer, and they're really, really running him, I think that will be good for Michigan. I think it'll be good for the bottom line. I don't know how that affects his thinking long term. So I'm not out here making it all be sunshine and rainbows. I'm just telling you that they're going to win whatever they got to do to win games. These dudes are going to do that to win games, right? And hopefully that's it being a really balanced sort of approach to the quarterback with all these receivers. And this is another thing that I think Bryce will have to his advantage this year that he didn't have last year, Brian. And I believe this is going to translate because every guy in here has said it. He can just throw it up to J.J. Buchanan. He can just throw it up. They told the story about, they said, man, I don't know if it was Jair. They said, listen, DB had blanket coverage. It was super tight. Like, it was perfect. And Bryce just lofted it up. And the dude jumped up over the receiver and pulled it down with one hand. It's like anything you throw in his vicinity, he's going to, if it's a jump ball scenario, he's coming down with it.
There's video of that going around, by the way. Someone got a clip of that and been passing around the internet.
Yeah, he didn't have that last year. So,
well, also the philosophy that Harbaugh brought over, I mean, Sharon and Harbaugh both kind of shared, is that like they didn't throw those kind of balls. Like if a guy was covered one-on-one, he was covered. And I remember distinctly they threw it to Colston Loveland in the Big Ten championship games at Purdue. And that's probably the only one in the last 6 or 7 years. So I do think that another coaching philosophy change is going to be helpful because he does have some guys now, especially with, Marsh as well, that you can just be like, go get it. And that's another thing that's pretty helpful for a young quarterback. And you do have to remember the fact that like last year's receiving core was grim. And this year's receiving core looks great in comparison. So I do think that, he's going to be running downhill for a big chunk of this because the running game is going to open up. You have a older offensive line. You have a couple of imports at wide receiver, and you got Marsh back. Like his personnel is going to be much, much better this year to work with. So, I think that there's a lot of upside here. It does feel like this is going to be a build year to hopefully something pretty explosive in year 2. But that's kind of the way of it. You get that first year and there's some promise, but you're treading water. And then when you get a real coach in, like year 2 is when things really ignite. And I think Michigan looks like they'll get almost all of their offense back. So I'm looking at this as a 2-year process to being very, very good in 27.
Yeah, man. But what can you be in the interim? And man, again, you're careful to not be overly optimistic because we're talking about practice, but you're talking about the tangible changes that you can see. And you're bringing up some philosophical ones, Brian, that I think are going to be really, really effective in the moment, really effective off the bat. I mean, JJ Buchanan said, listen, and Coach Beck knows this about me. There are no 50-50 balls. They don't exist. He said at worst, it's 80-20. At worst. Just throw it up. And he said that's what the offseason is about with Bryce, getting him to understand that chemistry between a receiver and a quarterback. What am I going to do, or what can I do? I got you. Just throw it up. There's a certain aspect of that I feel like is a given to translate when you're talking about a guy who's done it at a high level already as a true freshman. Now, that doesn't earmark them as being one of the top offenses in the Big Ten. I think it does earmark them for being definitely better than they were last year offensively. I know that's a low bar, but still.
Well, listen, just throw it up with leverage is literally how the NFL plays nowadays, right? It's not like simple reads, right? It's about finding your leverage. But if Bryce wants to be an NFL quarterback, you're going to have to make those throws because that's how they play the game nowadays.
Yeah. So defensively, and I'm going to get some more insight into this, but from practice observers, but the thing that they all come away talking about is, listen, you aren't going to know defensively from down to down what they're doing. And that was what was so great about how the Harbaugh era evolved defensively, where you had, especially on the back end, where you had Mallory. I remember talking about this in the national championship game. They had all these coverage variations, so many coverage variations that you had a top 10 quarterback not know what the hell he was looking at, guys. I mean, he looked terrible in that game. And it wasn't just because he had heat in his face, which he did, but he looked at the back. He had no idea what he was looking at. And it feels like we're going to be back to having that level of disguise on the back end.
So there's two points on that. Number one, secondary is really old, which I love. You look at our secondary and you're like, Chris Bracey, I think, is one of the most underrated recruit in the portal this year. When I was looking at his tape, I'm like, how did PFF think he was not good in coverage? He's like fixing everyone else's problems. You get Rod Moore back, hopefully. You get Jair Hill and Zeke Berry, like those guys have played a lot of football. Smith Snowden's another guy who's probably really underrated. And like you got some good old players in your secondary this year to play those games. The question I had, and I wanted to ask Ron this about what he saw at practice. Coaches, there's different. Some coaches want to, if you could ask a coach, what would your dream be on the biggest play of the season? Do you want to call the perfect play, or do you want to call, or do you want the perfect player, right? What would be better for you? And it's a different kind of philosophy. It's a different kind of thinking, right? Don Brown was a give me the perfect player guy, and then he didn't have the right players, but that was his philosophy of his defense, right? That's what man is all about. And then Wink was the opposite. Wink was like, I want to call the perfect play. I want to just get him, right? And that's kind of what I have a question is like, because they have a lot of guys who could do that, right? You could just be like, listen, man, you want to go man on Jair? Go man on Jair, right? You think you can beat that guy? Good luck.
Right.
They got some of the guys to do that. But they also have a lot of smart old guys who could play the other way too.
As you talk through that, Seth, one of the things that is going to give them all that flexibility, you talk about the experience. They got 3 guys who can play nickel and probably play it at a pretty high level. And Smith Snowden, who obviously said there's a lot of similarities schematically to what they were doing at Utah. You have Zeke Berry, who was like, man, when I went to nickel, from safety, I was swimming. He said it's the most difficult defense. I said I had an easier time at corner for sure. But now he's had the experience. And then Jair can play nickel. You got a lot of flexibility at that position, which is the chess piece position in most defenses, but especially this one. And so I'm really excited to see what that means. And about Smith, guys, I mean, I just don't think we talk about him enough. I've been so taken with all of the guys on the Behind the Uniform series, but his was so good. I put him at the end. And physically, his physical talent. People talk about his size. He's Mikey Sainristil's profile, but he's fat. He said in the summer, he clocked at 22.1 miles an hour. I think that's the fastest on the team. I don't know if I talked about that here on the roundtable before, but like that dude can fly. And he's really, really smart. He can play both. He can play either corner position and nickel. Like, you have really added to your coverage quotient with Smith Snowden. I think that was a low key. We talk a lot about John Henry Daly, who I think a lot of, JJ Buchanan, who I think a lot of too. But man, Smith Snowden in the end might wind up having been the biggest addition to this year's team.
Well, in addition, you've got more depth than even what you've talked about. You still got Shamari Earls, who I have some hope for, to say the least. And there's a blocking on the other safety who played a lot last year. He was great in the room.
Mason Curtis.
Yeah, Mason Curtis. So this is a very deep secondary. If you ask me about the defense, what might be problematic, it's gonna be defensive tackle. Yet everyone is saying, "Oh no, they're great at defensive tackle." So I mean, isn't that the question of?
Yeah, so the players are saying they expect to be this.
Right.
They expect to be a lot better. I'm with you guys because we talked about this last week. I got to see what all of these gains, what they translate into on the field. I mean, scheme isn't going to make a defensive tackle be better pass rush wise and be stronger at the point and being able to blow up offensive lines in the way we've seen Michigan teams blow up offensive lines in the past. And so, I'm optimistic. I'm not as certain with that as I am, say, the offensive line taking a step, or JJ Buchanan being big time, or Smith Snowden being a difference maker. I'm not ready to fully buy that defensive tackle is going to be imposing. They're going to have numbers, Craig. But I don't know that they're going to be, dominant in that area. But we'll see.
Well, if you look at a lot of one thing I noticed, and you can learn very little from pulling weights, but they finally published the weights, right? And I noticed the linebackers are really light, except for Marco Dabney somehow. But all the rest of the linebackers,
Nate isn't, and Staling is like 240, right?
Yeah, Staling's 240. Yeah, but he was 240 last.
So Nathaniel, we had to have him in behind the uniform after Kyle called him a Greek god at Big Ten Media Day. It's like, okay, I've heard too much about him from the players. Now we got to get him in. So we had him in.
That's such a Harbaugh quote.
And he said it's Nathaniel, just like John Henry said it's John Henry.
Okay.
He said it's Nathaniel. So let's address him that way. But yeah.
All right.
Now, anyway, other than those guys, a lot of Chase Taylor lost weight. And then you go back to Jay Hill's defense and how they played at BYU. They loved a lot of 3-3-5, especially on third downs. But they loved doing a lot of 3-3-5 stuff. He doesn't have like a Jalen Harrell or a Josiah Stewart on this team who is like very experienced at playing that position that makes that thing go. And he doesn't have like super pass rushy edges or tackles. What he does have is the way to play kind of the way TCU does, where you just put those tackles in there and have them just be big and then have everybody else behind that flying around.
So let me clear up a quote. I didn't say Smith Snowden is the next Mikey Sainristil. I said he has Mikey Sainristil's physical profile.
I mean,
I think he's going to play at a high level.
I
didn't say he's going to be the next. Mikey Sainristil is one of the greatest defenders in Michigan football history. I mean, Smith can be really, really good. And I think he has NFL talent. But you can be really, really good and have NFL talent and not be the player that Mikey Sainristil was. So I want to just be clear when we, because I see references in the chat to what I said. I said he has Mikey Sainristil's physical profile, except he's faster than Mikey. But
Mikey Sainristil,
Mikey but fast.
You heard it here first.
that doesn't mean
We have it.
That doesn't mean he's gonna be better than Mikey though, because Mikey was phenomenal.
But fast. Jesus.
He said that he actually got a chance to talk to Mikey. He studied him. He said, I see a ton of similarities in our games. And so here is where he's most like Mikey Sainristil. He said he is insane in the film room. Insane. He said, he's found a kindred spirit in Rod Moore in that way. But that was Mikey, man. Mikey watched as much film as the coaches.
Smartest football player I've ever seen. You know how good Mikey Sainristil was? Is that when people need a go-to comparison for a Michigan nickel that's obviously speculative that they should not make, they don't use Jabril Peppers or Dax Hill.
I thought that was, I admit, and let me give him credit. So Dax Hill goes on to the NFL, and I remember talking to Clink, and he's like, "Hey man, we might be better at that position." I was like, "Come on, Clink, this is not. This is you and I talking, just talking. We aren't even doing an interview.
That was like a
this is not
receiver,
right? And it's like, no, man, we're gonna be better there." I was like, "Get out of here! I'm no coach, but stop it, bro. You're caught up in the moment." He was right. So Clink. I could talk to Clint a couple weeks ago. That is the best call of all the calls he made. That is by far the best one. He called Mikey. The moment they moved Mikey Sainristil over, he called that dude a difference maker, and he was right.
Yeah, I remember first charting him at nickel, and I was like, dude, I don't want to say this, but he's better than Dax Hill. Like, we've improved this year.
Which is crazy. Crazy to think, because Dax was good, but yeah, Mikey's one of the all-time greats. So we'll close with this. Just emphasizing the point about Jay Hill. This is another thing all the defenders said, guys. They said from down to down, defenses, he does a great job of confusing defenses without confusing the defense, if that makes sense, right? So those guys are well coached, know exactly what they're doing. But the offense is going to have a real hard time with pegging that down, fellas.
And so this is a running thing. The problem I had with Martindale is that I thought he was out there trying to confuse NFL players. Confusing college players is a lot easier. And this was something that Minter really, really got, I thought. Minter even more than Mac. That you could show them a whole lot of stuff and then run the same coverage every single play against Ohio State. And they won't know what you're doing. Because they're college players, they're college kids. They see what they see, and they're trained, and their coaches have just said, "Look, man, if you see a guy rotate high, it is a 1 or 3, right? It's cover 1 or 3, and here's where your leverage is going to be." Because that's all you can do with a college guy. You got to rep that thing till it's just And then NFL guys are the ones like you play those big mind games with, and actually have to do the things that you're threatening. And Minter was fantastic at this. The entire championship game, go back and watch that game again and watch how the secondary moves around. And then they're in the same blitz with the same coverage 4 or 5 times in that game. And it worked every single time. That's what you can do in college.
My biggest takeaway from what Ron said is, and what a lot of players said, is that these dudes coach to their talent. I think about the USC game, fellas, and there were coaching and player errors in that game throughout. But I think the coaching error was like, man, you got to call what they can do. You got to be able to call what they can do and adjust on the fly if you have to. And it seems like that is going to be consistent, a theme with this team. I was going to say this defense, but with this team, they're going to coach what they can do.
It's the same on offense, Sam. You've got to coach to what they can do on offense. And at this point, to me, that's enigmatic.
Yeah. We got to get out of here, fellas. We are out of time, but it's always great to be with the Roundtable crew. I'm going to be out next week, so you guys have a great time, on the Roundtable next week, as you'll be closer to the start of Michigan football. So I know that's going to be exciting. But that's going to be it for today. We'll see you tomorrow here on the Michigan Insider and next week on the MGoBlog Roundtable here on the Big 1050 WTKA, online, thebig1050.com.